Hello, I'm Joe Holt, and with me, as always, is my hetero life partner, Jamel Singleton. Hello, Jamel.
We gotta talk about some stuff.
All right. Sound like Attack the Block right there, dude. That was pretty cool. The other day, I wore a tan shirt with jeans and like a green undershirt, and I totally felt like the crocodile hunter. My mom was like, "I love your shirt." I was like, "Really? I feel like I'm on a safari in Africa." It's weird.
Ears are open, then that sound you're hearing is Stream Team Podcast, Episode 6. I'm your host, Jamel Singleton, and joining me is my lovely co-host,
Joe Holt.
If this is your first time listening to the Stream Team Podcast, here's the scoop. We start every show with a recap of what we've been reading, watching, playing. Then, we segue into a discussion of our favorite recent news stories. Finally, the main event, an in-depth movie review. This week's review, ParaNorman. Joe Holt, did you know the average booby weighs 1 pound?
I didn't realize we were going to start with a quiz. I was not aware of that, but from my limited experience, I would say that's about right. That sounds about right. You can't see it at home, folks, but currently imagining like weights.
Yeah, imaginary scale of hands.
Yeah, like little liberty, little justice, blind justice right there. Just, yep, I'd say it's about right.
Considering the subject matter, I hope the justice isn't blind.
Did you know the human head weighs 8 pounds? So Jamel, hit me up with Press Rewind. What have you been checking out?
All right, so you talking about Bioshock 2 a few weeks ago kind of got me reminded about a piece of DLC I picked up a while back called Minerva's Den.
I dreamed of a computer that could think for itself.
Mom, what's 7 times 12? Don't ask me.
Silly.
Ask the computer tutor.
And using Rapture's technology, I made that dream reality. The Rapture
Minerva's Den is kind of an expansion for Bioshock 2, and it tells another story of Rapture, basically. So,
for those of us ignorant, retarded people, DLC is downloadable content?
Indeed it is, sir.
Nice!
Yeah, so, in this case, this piece of content uses some of the main graphics and elements from the main Bioshock 2 game, and they used it to build a completely different part of Rapture and tell a completely separate story from anything in the original Bioshock or Bioshock 2. There are some characters they kind of reference from the other two games, but in general, it's a brand new story, a brand new tale in that same world. I haven't finished it yet, but so far it's really compelling. I think at this point it's way better than Bioshock 2 itself. And I think this entire game or this entire DLC piece of content is probably going to end up being around 4 to 6 hours long. So
wow,
it's pretty good.
I think my first run through the game was only like 16 to 18 hours, I think, Bioshock 2, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, so, I mean, it tells the story of Minerva's Den, which is supposed to be the high technology section of Rapture. And in Minerva's Den, there's a scientist who's been working on a supercomputer. And just like in the original Bioshock and Bioshock 2, you kind of have two warring factions. You have the scientist faction, and then another person from Minerva's Den who's fighting to get control of the supercomputer. And there's all these weird little story bits related to the two characters, and you kind of have this weird thing where you don't know who's telling you the truth and all that stuff. Two people talking to you through the radio constantly back and forth. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty cool. Probably the biggest revelation for me in playing this is, even though I'm enjoying Minerva's Den very much, I really don't like Bioshock 2. I really don't like that game. I thought I did. My memory, in my memories, I had a pretty good time playing it. But once I started playing it again, I was just like, wow, this little sister stuff is just absolutely horrible. It's just the worst idea anybody could have had.
I finished Bioshock 2 maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago at the most. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was good, but I can see what you're talking about. I can see it. Like, I came off of Portal and Portal 2, mm-hmm. which were both fun, immersive, figure it out kind of games, single player games. And I felt like for the most part with Bioshock 2, there wasn't really much to figure out. I was kind of just going along with the plot and being told what to do.
Right.
And I told Patrick. Patrick actually bought me the game free. And I didn't even realize up until I was like almost 3/4 of the way done, like 60% done with the game, that I could get two, what is it called? Eve pulls from the Little Sisters.
Oh, yeah.
Two Atom pulls from the Little Sisters. I didn't realize this.
Right.
I was only getting one at a time and then throwing them into the little vents or whatever. So like 60% way through the game, I was only like half powered up. So from that point on, from 60% to 100%, I like did every single thing I could, every Little Sister with as many things. And by the time I got to the end sequences, nothing could touch me. It was redonkulous. I was using Incinerate and just blowing up everybody, and I don't know. I felt like it was a little too easy to get too powerful in that game. And by then, like literally, I just had to sit there and wait long enough and just keep throwing fireballs and shooting somebody and hope my ammo doesn't run out, and I could pretty much defeat everybody.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, that's the way it should be. That's sort of one of the problems with that game. I mean, you had a really great game in Bioshock, and they decided they were going to try to make a sequel out of it and figure out how they were going to do that. And I guess the most compelling idea they could think of was, let's make you into a Big Daddy. And that's essentially, in this world, it's essentially like saying, well, let's make him into Superman. And then you're like, well, damn, we made him into Superman. How is he going to have any fun playing this game? So they're like, oh, well, you're a prototype Big Daddy, so you're not as big and bulky as the other ones. And so you're a little bit weaker, so you end up, I mean, the game ends up playing, as far as like the way you get attacked and the way you get damaged, just like the original Bioshock played, even though you weren't a Big Daddy in that game.
Sure. So, and that's what I've heard. I haven't played the first one, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah, and all of the Little Sister, like, where you take her to get Adam and stuff like that, all of that stuff was never in the original Bioshock. It's all stuff they derived to extend the playtime of Bioshock 2. And those missions are so freaking annoying. Thinking back on it, it's just like, I'd rather just go ahead and get rid of the Little Sisters and not have to deal with that. But even then, you still need to take them to do that, to get as much Adam as you could possibly get. Even if you don't save them in the end.
But Minerva's Den was better?
Minerva's Den, one of the things they did, you could tell they realized that they made a mistake with that. So the sequences where you take the Little Sisters to get Adam from the dead bodies, those go by really quick. I mean, I was like, the first few times I was doing it, I was like, I'm throwing turrets down, and I'm doing all this stuff, getting ready, setting traps and stuff, getting ready for a big battle. And, maybe a minute till the Little Sister's done getting all the Adam she needs, and she drinks it, and you just pick her up. As soon as you pick her up, the enemies kind of just disappear. There may be one stray enemy hanging about. If you had some turrets or something fighting them, they may stay around and finish that battle, but for the most part, all the rest of the splicers disappear.
Well, I like that they improved it at least.
Yeah. There's a little bit more exploration. There's a lot more opportunity for you. Like you get, in Bioshock 1, you got this feeling like the splicers were just wandering around the world, and you could just run into them or not. You could hide and let them walk by and not deal with them at all, or, you could hack cameras and security and stuff and wait for them to walk into there and deal with them that way, or, So you felt like you had a lot of options for how you played the game. And Minerva's Den kind of returns back to that a little bit, which is nice. Cool. And it's a little bit more fun. When I first started playing it, I was really having a great time. And the very first time I had to pick up a little sister, or the game told me to go take out a Big Daddy and pick up this little sister. Then I remembered what all that's about, and I was just like, crap, I don't want to do this. And even now, I really want to finish it because the story is so compelling, but every time I think about having to deal with the whole little sister thing, I kind of just don't want to do it. The really great part is I have dealt with one big sister, and it was a breeze. Because unlike the main game, it feels like the big sisters tend to appear when you're in a big open area where they have full range to use all of the different powers they have and hop around and do a bunch of stuff. In this, they just come wherever you're at. So I managed to get one in like a nice tight hallway where she couldn't do much, and I hid behind something and just, shot at her, and if she tried to throw something at me, I caught it and threw it back. It was a breeze. Just knocked it right out. So again, I think it's just them fixing it and making the things that are kind of a pain in the ass easy to deal with. But yeah, I mean, that's Minerva's Den. It's been out for a couple years now. It came out like 2 months after Bioshock 2 originally came out. And I bought it way back then. It went on sale, and I just never played it until now. So at this point, I'd recommend it. If you like Bioshock in general, I think this is a pretty good story. Unlike the main Bioshock 2 game, I feel like this story really adds to the texture of what is Rapture and the backstory of it. So, yeah, pretty awesome.
Nice.
What else have I been doing? I watched the movie Sinister.
I have never been onto something this big before.
Early Christians believed that Bagul actually lived in the images themselves and that they were gateways into his realm. Children exposed to the images were especially vulnerable to Bagul's abduction.
Sweetheart, what are you doing?
Painting. I wanted to paint her picture.
Who are you talking about?
Stephanie. She used to live here.
This movie is starring Ethan Hawke and a newcomer named Juliet Raylands. The movie's directed by Scott Derrickson, and it's written by Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill. Scott Derrickson has been around a little bit. He actually made one of my all-time favorite horror movies, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which is a pretty fantastic movie. He also did one of my favorite Hellraiser sequels. He did Hellraiser 3. And he also did The Day the Earth Stood Still.
The Keanu Reeves version?
Yeah, which I didn't think was as bad as most people thought it was, especially looking back at it again and looking at the budget for that movie. I feel like he did an impressive job. I don't think direction was a problem with that movie. I think it was mostly writing. And if you're going to cast somebody to be an alien in a human's body, Keanu Reeves is probably the best choice in the entire world. Because all he has to do is play himself.
That's mean, dude. That's very mean.
I'm just keeping it real.
Well, I watched Iron Man 3 this last weekend. Janelle, my wife, asked me out on a date, and we went to go see Iron Man 3, directed by Shane Black.
Nice.
Yeah, starring Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Guy Pearce, Rebecca Hall. It was phenomenal.
Ladies, children, sheep. Some people call me a terrorist. I consider myself a teacher. Lesson number 1. Heroes. There is no such thing.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
Not yet.
Oh, I'm not going to say anything other than if you weren't filming this with me right now, I would say stop what you're doing and go watch it. That's how good it is. But don't stop. I want you to keep recording. But tomorrow, whatever you're doing tomorrow night, cancel your plans. Go see Iron Man 3. It was just spectacular, phenomenal, amazing, fantastic, any other great adjectives I could think of. Easily one of the best movies, not just superhero movies, but one of the best movies I've seen in a while, probably in the last couple of years. One of the best.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just good. It was funny. It was action-packed. There was really good heart, which the second movie just lacked completely, but the first movie really had. Yeah. It's one that I'll go see again. It's definitely a buy it when it comes out on DVD or Blu-ray, now that I have a Blu-ray player. Welcome to 2010. Yeah, I can't speak highly of it enough. It's fantastic. Go see it.
What else you been doing, Joe?
Yeah. So I tried playing Black Ops 2. It was multiplayer playable for free on Steam this weekend. Nice. Until Sunday at 1 or something like that. So I played it Friday night, Saturday night. Maybe, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes here and there. And I got killed, like, a lot. Muchos death. I don't know, man. I felt like I would have enjoyed it more had it been a single-player game where I had a mission and I could go out and do the mission and just kind of learn the game, but also just take my time. With the multiplayer aspect of it, like, there are just so many dicks out there where, you know what I mean? Like, at one point, I literally spawned. I just spawned, and I moved like 2 feet, and I got capped in the head, and I was dead. And that happened so many times. Like, I barely moved dead, barely moved dead, barely moved dead. And I mean, I realize that's the point of some of the different kinds of co-op games they have or whatnot.
No, that's not the point. That's what's called spawn camping. There's somebody who knows that people spawn in that point, and they're just far enough away that the game doesn't prevent you from spawning there.
Sure.
And they just lie in wait for somebody to magically appear and pop them in the head.
The only people I want killing me a lot in these types of games are my friends. I would love to do some type of a LAN party or something like that. Find somebody who also has a game like that and play together and forget everybody else. Like back in the old days, you get like James Bond GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64, and you get like 4 of your friends and just kill the crap out of each other. Like, I miss those days. Yeah. This whole, like, I mean, people were talking the worst smack in the world, and all I kept thinking was, like, dude, it's Black Ops. Let's relax, all right? You're probably, like, fat. You live at home with your mom. Like, I'm glad you're good at Black Ops. Yeah, I'm glad you're good at Black Ops, but let's just really just take a break, all right? When that ended at 1 on Sunday, I tried a game called Blacklight as well. It's a free-to-play game. It's it kind of reminded me of a mix between like Black Ops and maybe Halo. Like, the weapons were advanced and the locations were kind of spacey and futuristic. But I didn't really like that either. Like, again, a lot of just jerks going around just hunting noobs, and all of the noob rooms or sections of the content or whatnot were all locked, or they were already full, so I had to keep going in with people who were way better than me and had way better weapons, had played longer. And once again, I was just thinking, like, man, if they just had like a target range or some single player kind of levels that you could just play and just have fun, like, that would be much cooler. But I can't really find anything like that on Steam where I can play for free and just kind of go through missions on my own. If you have any recommendations, I'd be happy to take them. But I've got a little bit more time on my hands now, and it's fun if my wife's working for a couple hours at night, that I can just hop on and we either watch a movie online or play a game for an hour or so or whatnot. But I just haven't found anything other than Portal and Portal 2 that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, free single-player stuff is tough. I mean, games like Blacklight, one of the cool things is, because it's free to play, I think you sometimes can set up like a little local party, and maybe, you get your friends and you can play online with just your friends. So maybe we can look into doing something like that with some of the free-to-play games. I
would be all over that, dude. That would be awesome.
Yeah, we could do some Team Fortress, or there's a couple of other games that are pretty cool, multiplayer games that are free-to-play we can get into.
I'm in. Whatever I need to do to make that happen, you let me know.
Yeah, and then it'll just be me killing you and calling you a noob.
I'm okay with that. 'Cause it's you, and I love you, so we're cool. But that's it for me. I've just been watching stuff on Netflix, Alias and Continuum, both good shows, starring I don't know, powerful women. Apparently, I'm on a powerful women kick this week. So
always fun. It'd be a good time to revisit Veronica Mars.
I love that show. Yeah, I may need to check that out again. It's been a while. All right, you want to move on? What's hot this week?
Wait, you ran over my Sinister thing.
Oh,
I just want to say one thing about Sinister.
Please say it. Say it.
So Sinister, horror movie. It messes a little bit with the found footage genre. The horror in this movie comes from found footage, but it is not a found footage movie. The movie stars Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke plays a writer who was once this really hot writer of crime fiction or crime nonfiction. He basically goes and does research and finds out about real horrible events, and he writes them, or writes books about them. He's I'm trying to think of the author who is like that. I can't think of the guy's name. There's an author who does kind of a similar thing. But basically he was super hot. He had his moment in the sunshine, and it's been years since he's had a hit. He's been writing books, and his last book was rather controversial, and he called out the police for not doing a great job. And when it was all said and done, a lot of his facts ended up being wrong, and so there are a lot of people mad at him. And he's working on this new book, and he moves to this small town. He basically moves into the house where vicious, horrible murder was committed. And he gets into this house and he starts writing his book. And he finds this box, and he opens the box, and it's filled with all of these Super 8 film reels. So he gets a camera and he stitches them together, and he starts to watch them. And each one of the reels contains a horrific murder. So it sort of is about him trying to unravel the mystery of what's going on with this box and these films. Why are they here? The person who did this murder in the house that I'm in, the house that he's actually in, that murder is also on one of the tapes. So he begins to wonder if this person is still around and maybe stalking him and maybe wants him to watch these. So it's this whole crazy thing that gets really, really, really tense and really scary and creepy, and delves into all of these different like little subgenres and stuff like that. It kind of bounces around a little bit. It starts feeling like it's one kind of movie and it becomes another, but each time it gets a little bit more unsettling. And I don't want to say too much about it because there's a lot of surprises in this movie. I think it's really great. The one thing I will say is the opening scene of this movie is one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen in my entire life. And that's all I will say about that. Like, just the first 5 minutes of the movie is just like, that will tell you whether you can handle watching that movie or not. It's like, if you can get past that, you can watch the rest of Sinister, but if you can't, if that's too much for you, turn it off and don't watch it.
Holy
but
crap.
it's a really great test of your ability to deal with horrifying events, especially events that feel like something that could really happen. So, again, written and directed by Scott Derrickson. It was co-wrote by C. Robert Cargill, who is actually a film critic, pretty well-known online film critic. So, yeah, great movie.
I have no idea how I railroaded you. I'm very sorry.
That's okay. It's fine. I'm just here for your entertainment.
You bastard.
All right. What do you know?
Oh, yeah. Now it's hot this week. Let's go back to Joe.
Yeah.
How
so, Joe.
dare you?
Yeah, Joe. What news has caught your eye this week?
Newsflash: Joe's a horrible friend. Won't let other people talk.
No, go ahead, Joe. I love you, man. You saw
it. Sorry. So this week, why don't you keep going and I'll just go last?
No, I want to hear your story here.
All right. So one of the biggest pieces of news that I have is that How I Met Your Mother, which has been around for 9 seasons now, finally revealed the mother in question, the How I Met Your Mother. It's an actress I didn't realize I knew. When I saw her, she looked kind of familiar. Her name is Kristen Milioti. And I couldn't place where I knew her from. She's kind of a smallish, brunette, kind of mousy girl. And I realized I'd seen her on 30 Rock. She showed up as this woman that Liz Lemon, Tina Fey's character, wanted to kind of get the writers into a frenzy. And instead of being this powerful woman that she thought she was going to be, the woman started, this actress, Christina Milioti, started like putting her hair up in pigtails and talking in this really high-pitched voice, and like she'd pop her breasts out, and all the guys were just falling all over themselves to get with her. So it totally destroyed Tina Fey's whole, powerful woman who doesn't need sexuality. So I didn't realize that was her until I started looking her up. But finally, I've been saying for literally years now to my wife, like, this show is going nowhere. It's still kind of funny, but I'm just sick of it. Like, if Ted tries to get with Robin again, I'm going to literally shoot myself. Thankfully, he didn't, although he's kind of going that way. But I know the end is coming. And really, in the last 5 or 6 episodes, they really stepped it up. And in this last episode, the season finale for this week, they finally introduced the mother, like full-on shot of her. We know we're going to get to meet her this next season, and her and Ted are going to get together. So I applaud the makers of How I Met Your Mother for keeping me strung along, you bastards, for like 9 years. I cannot wait to see this next season.
That's funny because Maria and I are pretty way behind on the show. We've been just watching it on Netflix. For years, I never watched it because I just didn't get it. And when it popped up on Netflix, we started watching it. And it's absolutely a show that you have to either watch from the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Or just dig in and keep watching until it starts to make sense to you.
It's like Arrested Development. Like, if you miss stuff, forget about it.
Yeah, it's all in-jokes and callbacks, and so you really won't get the show unless you watch it for a certain period of time, or at least a certain number of episodes, until some of the in jokes and stuff start to make sense to you, or they do callbacks to explain things so that they make more sense. But yeah, so I think I'm in like season 6 or something like that, maybe on Netflix. But we've gotten to the point where, when we started watching the show, we would like put it on and watch like 2-3 episodes in a row. And now we just have this rule where like we watch one episode and then we turn it off and watch something else. Because I'm just so sick of, mainly because we're sick of Ted.
Yeah, that's the problem.
He's such a freaking woman.
Really starting at like season 5, season 6, like he just got to be horrible. Just horrible to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the show is basically, I've always said this to people when I explain the show, is that the formula for the show that made it work is they basically took a formula that has been working for years, where you have a show about a group of friends, and there's this crazy woman in the show who's just trying to get a man, and the show's kind of all about her. You could just talk about all these different shows, Sex and the City. There's so many shows that fall into that same thing. Basically, all they did was take that woman and make her into a man, and they just barely changed the writing. And that's the part that drives me absolutely nuts about this show, is that Ted is basically a woman, and they write in a few things to make him a man, but for the most part, it's like they wrote this part for a woman, and they went in and did a find replace for various, instead of I love him or I think I love him, it's I love her, I think I love her.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So annoying.
What about you? What's hot this week with you?
So, the thing that really has been blowing my mind this week is the Fast and Furious 6. We've talked about it coming. We talked about how Justin Lin's going to be leaving after this movie and all this stuff, and how, I'm a freaking fanboy for this series. And by the way, I did finally end up getting all of the movies in a digital format, so I don't have to get up from the couch anymore.
Oh,
but I do also have them on Blu-ray, so you can borrow them.
Hey, thanks.
And get caught up.
Well, I've got your birthday present over here, so at some point you need to give me those DVDs, and I need to give you your birthday present. So.
Aw. Shucks. But yeah, so Fast and Furious 6, the early reviews are starting to come out. And I think it was earlier today, I posted, basically I picked up the bits of my brain that were all over my keyboard and put them up on Facebook. And when they were all assembled and laid out, the bits of my brain said Fast and Furious 6 is at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It has since dropped a little bit, but it's still at 89%.
89%. I was actually shocked at that when I saw it like Saturday. That it was, I think it was like 96 when I saw it on Saturday, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, what the hell?"
Yeah, it's blowing my mind because I'm starting to feel like one of those kids who are into punk music, and like I was down with this band back when they were nobody, man.
It's finally catching on.
Back when they were nobody, and now with this score, I'm afraid that everybody's going to want to jump on the fast bandwagon. The fast bandwagon. See what I did there?
Well done, sir.
So they're gonna want to jump on the bandwagon, and I'm gonna feel like I don't want you guys on my wagon. It's just me and Vin Diesel and Paul Walker, man. What
I just
you
want it
doing
to be
up
an indie movie, all right?
Yeah. So it's weird. I'm starting to feel this weird. I don't want these people in my ship. Kind of thing, but.
Well, I was just as surprised as you that the reviews were coming back in so positive. Do you have plans to see it?
I do need to see it.
Yeah.
I need to see it soon. So what I'd like to do is do the one thing I've never been able to do, and that's catch it in D-Box. So, D-Box. So D-Box is this thing that's in some theaters, and basically what it is you sit in these special chairs, and the chairs vibrate and rock and move.
I've heard
with
of
the
this.
movie. So the tickets are like double what they normally cost, unless you go on one of the special event days or whatever. But I think it would be worth it to see what apparently is the best, the penultimate at this point in time. It's the penultimate Fast and Furious movie.
You got to find a way to get me those movies. And Janelle is gone next week. She leaves town on Friday, and she's gone for an entire week. If you want to go see it, I just need to see the other ones beforehand, and I will go D-Box this movie with you, D-Bag. So.
Hells yeah.
I can't believe I just said I'm going to go see this movie.
I'm gonna teach you how to live life a quarter mile at a time.
I'll live my life a quarter mile at a time.
That is actual dialogue from the Fast and Furious.
Oh, I remember that. That's the first movie, baby. I remember that. So my next hot this week is concerning the new World War Z movie.
Mm-hmm.
And how I'm not excited at all about this movie. Max Brooks, the guy who wrote World War Z, the novel, basically said they kept the title of his book, and that's it. So I'm just stupefied that someone would pay as much as they did to just get the name of the book for the movie. But I know how many people loved the book, and I think they're like the Batman franchise or Spider-Man, they're capitalizing on our inherent need to see a movie with World War Z in the title.
I don't think the target is people who actually read the book.
Pardon.
I think...
Like, I'm all choked up about World War Z. I'm sorry. I can't process it. They're killing my baby.
I think the target for this movie, or in this case, I think the target is people who they hear about this really great book and they don't read, or they don't like to read, or whatever the case may be. So when they hear that the movie's coming out, they assume that, I can get down with it this way. I think Game of Thrones on HBO is actually one of these things where, the books are these big, meaty, dense fantasy things that there are a lot of people who've heard of it, and they feel like maybe I should read it, but now that the show is out, I can just watch that.
Right.
And so I feel like that's the target for this movie. I think anybody who's ever read World War Z, as soon as they see the trailer, they know it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was
you know.
readily
I mean,
apparent.
he has a whole, like, what is it? Probably like 3 pages in the second or third chapter of the book where he talks about the fact that the zombies aren't fast.
Yeah.
That's not what makes them scary. What makes them scary is the fact that they overwhelm you.
Right. The sheer number of them and their unwillingness to alter their course.
First it's 1 zombie, and next thing you know there's 2, and then there's 5, and you're just overwhelmed.
Right.
You know, and so the fact that the director felt like he needed to make them fast was already him veering completely out of the realm of anything that had anything to do with
So
books.
stupid. Makes
And
me
I continue
so
to say Danny Boyle, even though it wasn't a zombie movie, 28 Days Later ruined zombie movies forever because he decided they should run. Yeah. And now every zombie has to be fast, and nobody understands what makes zombies scary anymore, sadly.
Walking Dead still gets it, but that show is...
No, Walking Dead doesn't get it.
Walking Dead gets the slow zombies, is what I'm trying to say. The sheer...
Well,
do you remember when Rick was
they're
in the, like,
slow
the city?
sometimes. The problem with Walking Dead is they can't define a set of rules.
Can't make up their minds.
Yeah, the rules change on a constant. Basically, whatever they need the zombies to do, the zombies
That's what
will
the
do.
zombies do.
If they need the zombies to move fast, the zombies will lumber faster, almost as fast as if they were jogging. If they need the zombies to get smart enough to open a closet door and find somebody inside of the closet, they will do that. It's so bizarre how the rules continue to change. If they need the zombies to smell that a person's nearby, the zombies will smell that people are nearby. But if they don't need them to smell that people are nearby, they'll walk right by people who are hiding under cars.
That's true.
So, I don't know. Nobody gets it.
Well, I'm very sad.
The Walking Dead video game got it. And not the new piece of shit that just came out, but the old one that was made by Telltale.
Haven't seen it.
You should play that.
Oh, yeah?
It's on Steam.
Really?
It's on sale on Steam. If it's not on sale on Steam right now, it's going to be on sale on Amazon, which will end up being a download code for Steam in the next couple days. I think I did a post about that. But, yeah. That gets it. They get it.
That gets it.
Hey, it's my turn. So, hot this week for me. I saw the...
How dare you?
I saw the trailer. The trailer was released this week for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is the new show created by Joss Whedon, and it's meant to run in tandem with the world or the storyline from the Avengers, as established by Joss Whedon. It was last summer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Feels like it was longer than that.
Yeah. Very, very close.
But yeah, I mean, Agent Coulson's back. Phil Coulson's back in the house.
How badass was that trailer when the guy says when Coulson died at the Battle of New York or whatever, and he just walks right out. I think you got.
Well, he's like, but yeah, that's all the information I had at level 6, and he walks in. Welcome to level 7.
Yeah, that's badass. That's good. Don't touch the Lola.
Yeah.
So many good moments. Yeah, I'm so happy to see him back. That actor is fantastic. Clark Gregg, is that his name? Clark Gregg? Yeah. Yeah, fantastic actor.
Yeah, the one man with 2 first names you can actually trust.
I keep hoping beyond hope that he's going to be like, they brought him back synthetically, that it's not really Agent Coulson, that it's eventually going to be the Vision. Another superhero. I'm really hope they made a fake body and they downloaded his brain into that. But I'm really hoping. But I have a feeling that's not going to happen.
No, I think the actual storyline for what happened slipped out, and it's funny because it's as simple as I thought it was when I saw the Avengers, in that you don't really see him die.
Right.
I mean, you see what appears to be him die, and then you see people go to work on trying to save his life. So, and then Nick Fury goes and gets those cards and covers them in blood and throws them on the table. And they even tell you that, like, yeah, those cards were in his locker.
Yeah, he faked it, yeah. So it wouldn't strain the brain to think that he also faked Coulson dying. No, I agree, but...
Right, the internet went to town, though, so it makes it a little bit of a bummer because the internet went to town and came up with some really great ideas. for how he could have come back, like the vision idea, or the other one was the life model decoy, which Nick Fury uses a lot in the comic books. The SHIELD top agents have these androids that are designed to look and act exactly like them. And so, someone will think they've got Nick Fury cornered, they'll blow him away, and then it'll be a bunch of robot parts on the ground, and they're like, oh, crap.
Damn it, I knew it.
Yeah,
well,
so.
I hope there's something up with it. I hope it's not just, psych, he wasn't dead, you silly people.
Yeah, I mean, they still could do the vision thing, and that's one of those things that they could really, spin back around and throw at you in Avengers 3 or something like that.
How badass would that be, though? Seriously, he gets hit or something, and... Anyway, regardless, awesome. That trailer is awesome. Check it out, people.
Yeah, J. August Richards from Angel in that show as well.
I haven't seen him in forever.
Joss Whedon bringing the Buffy universe back around in full. So yeah, it looks like an exciting show. I can't wait to see it. I think that's it for me on news. That it for you, sir?
On to the main event, sir.
On to the main event. This week's main event is ParaNorman. A misunderstood boy takes on ghosts, zombies, and grown-ups to save his town from a centuries-old curse. Directed by Chris Butler and Sam Fell, it stars Cody Smith-McPhee, Tucker Albrizzi, Anna Kendrick, Casey Affleck, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, and Leslie Mann.
Meet Norman.
Can't you be like other kids your age?
His parents don't get him.
He's probably up there fiddling with his Ouija or his orb.
Harry.
His sister doesn't like him.
You are such a loser.
And the kids at school...
Look, it's Abnorman!
...always pick on him. But he does have some friends.
Norman, wait up! I like to be alone. So do I. Let's do it together.
It's just that most of them...
Good morning.
...aren't exactly alive.
How's it hanging?
Haven't heard that one before.
You see ghosts, all the time? Who's a good boy? That's not his chin. Oh, couldn't you use another stall?
Time is running out.
From the makers of Coraline.
The witch's ghost is going to wake up tonight. And when she does, she'll raise the dead.
You've got to use your gift of talking to the dead to stop it.
This is crazy.
Do I look crazy to you?
You, might want to give that a few minutes.
Now, to save his town, he'll need a little help.
Oh, yeah.
I got you.
Oh, this is getting completely out of hand! Is he dead or what?
So, Joe, let's talk a little bit about ParaNorman.
Dude, it was fantastic. It was fun. It was exciting. I thought the stop motion was amazing. There were times where I really felt like I was watching a 3D movie, like a CGI movie, like a Toy Story versus stop motion, and then they would do something where hair would move weird or whatnot, and I'd realize, like, holy crap, that's right, this is stop motion, this is not 3D, and that to me was just amazing. The one concern that I had about the movie is I'm not sure what the recommended viewing age is for it.
Yeah, I had that same feeling. It's a pretty dark movie. I'm gonna just agree with everything you said about the movie, and also,
what did you think?
I get really into the technical stuff, and I try to think about how this was done, and from the very start of the movie to the opening scene where Norman is walking to school, the camera angles they use and the sort of camera tricks and cuts and pans and things they use are very traditional. There's a little bit of Wes Anderson in there. It just blew my freaking mind that it was stop motion, It's just like, wow, like the camera move where it's kind of, the camera's panning across and you've got buildings in the foreground and in the background you have Norman walking and there's ghosts flying around and even beyond him you have the other buildings on the opposite side of the street. Just like stuff like that just really tripped me out and really impressed me.
Yeah, there was a lot of this movie where I couldn't tell what was, if anything, was CGI versus stop motion.
Right. I mean, it seems like there was very little CGI. There was, maybe some compositing of things, but for the most part, it seemed like the CGI was at a minimum, which is pretty amazing. It's pretty fantastic.
Talking about the technical aspect of this movie, there were one of the things I thought was just brilliant about the movie was the fact that it felt like it was from a kid's perspective. Right. I noticed that the camera was not always low, but that you were kind of looking up at adults when adults were talking. There's a great scene, like maybe 5-6 minutes in, where Norman's parents are talking to him, but then they kind of start arguing with each other, and he's stuck in the middle, and they're on either side. The camera isn't showing like a wide shot of all three of them. The camera stays tight on Norman, and you see his mom from the neck down, almost like Charlie Brown style, and then you see the dad with this big pot belly come in right next to Norman, and you just see this big belly kind of moving and shaking as the dad's talking, and the mom is, got her hands moving, and you just see Norman kind of stuck in the middle, and it totally felt like this is from a kid's perspective. Like, the adults are here, but like Charlie Brown, they're not the main focus of the story. I'm focused on this kid. And there are so many parts of the movie that are like that, where it's focused on the other kids or Norman in particular. But I really like that from a young adult kind of perspective.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that a lot of the themes, and there's a lot of thought behind how this movie is shot. And it's probably the deepest, I hesitate to call it a kid's movie. I feel like it's just a film that happens to be animated. I tend to feel that about most animated movies, but so much of it is drivel made directly for kids or made to dumb our kids down. But, this is a film that happens to be animated, and they get into some really incredible and thought-provoking themes and ideas about being a kid and being different and being an outcast. Almost every kid in the movie is an outcast in some way or another. And it's interesting to see how they play with those dynamics. At the very beginning of the movie, Norman seems like the oddball out, but as it goes on, you start to realize that he's not alone and feeling like he's separate from the rest of the world.
It's good. I mean, it talks about bullies. It talks about acceptance. It basically, again, from a kid's perspective, if a kid's watching this, they will totally appreciate the idea that adults don't listen to them, and adults don't pay attention. They hear what they want to hear, or they say what they have to say, and then when the kid starts talking, they tune the kid out. There's a lot of that going on in this movie, and I just checked. It is a PG movie. I wasn't sure if it was PG or PG-13, but it's a little scarier than I would like. There are some pretty tense moments. I don't mean like jump scares or, like Saw type kind of blood or things like that. Not at all. Like it's a very clean type movie in that sense. But there are just some moments where, it just gets kind of dark, and I would be hesitant. What do you think? Maybe like a minimum age, probably like 10? Somewhere around there?
Yeah,
8 to 10?
I let Olivia watch it. She seemed a little bit nervous about some scenes, and I hesitantly let her watch it, but she had been watching some other stuff that she'd actually been watching a new Scooby-Doo show that's out now, and I feel like that show gets pretty dark, but before I had ever noticed it, she'd already saw, like a whole season of it, and it was too late to take it back, so I was like, if she's been watching that, she can handle ParaNorman.
Did she watch it in the daytime or at night?
We watched it during the day on a Saturday, and we were all on the couch together. So yeah,
that could help.
There were still some parts that she, had some objection to, or she covered her eyes or whatever.
That's what the kind of reaction I'm thinking of for kids. Like if a kid saw it in the theater, I think it would be kind of a little overwhelming with the music and the sound.
Absolutely,
and stuff.
I agree. I think that if it's really loud in the theater and you've got all the booming surround sound, I don't think a kid can handle it. I don't think a kid under 10 can handle it.
Yeah, so if you're listening and you're thinking this is a good kids movie, I think it is. I think I would probably make it a PG-13 movie, but I'm with Jamel in the sense of probably 10 and over, you're probably safe compared to a lot of the stuff they have on TV these days. But it is speaking of which, it is a good, clean, wholesome kind of movie. It deals with ghosts. It deals with death and afterlife and letting go and things like that, as well as some of the things we talked about, bullies and outsiders. But it just felt like a good kind of family movie.
Yeah, we probably should explain exactly what happens in the movie too, or not exactly what happens, but a little bit better plot summary than the one that came packed up with the movie. And basically, the movie is about a child named Norman. He is an outcast. He doesn't seem to fit into the mold of the kids who live around him or go to school with him or whatever. And it's primarily because Norman has the ability to see and speak with ghosts. And everybody in the town seems to know about this. It's not a big secret. And even the adult, everyone from kids all the way up to adults are weirded out by him and his quote unquote claim to be able to see ghosts and interact with them.
Yeah, they think he's crazy.
Right. And he pretty much it's a normal part of life for him. The movie starts with him walking to school, and he's seeing all of these ghosts everywhere, and they're like old friends. He's saying, "Hey, how you doing? Hello, how's it going?"
But brilliantly, at first, they don't show the ghost. You just see him walking around, and he's going, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, I love what you did to your hair." And you get the same feeling of what the town is going to show you, that this kid is off his rocker, that he's just talking to things that aren't there. And then the camera keeps panning around, as Jamel said, and you start seeing all these kind of floating spectral, kind of green spectral ghosts, and you see what he's seeing, and you're kind of opened up to his world.
Right. And so this all culminates with Norman being told that his ability to be able to speak to ghosts is why he is chosen to perform a certain task to keep something really bad from happening.
Right.
And so
he kind of teams up with a couple other outsiders, and they have to kind of put a stop to something that starts to terrorize the town. And the town itself is, they reveal pretty early on, like a town rich in history. It was a town that was
famous
inhabited by witches. So they have a lot of witch
or quote unquote
stores.
Witches, I should say.
Quote unquote witches.
It's one of those towns where the famous witch trials happened, and most famously, there was one particular witch that was hanged in the town years and years before.
Yeah, like 100 years or so before. But and it's kind of the mystery that you have to figure out what happened to her, why, and who did it, and that kind of a thing. It's slowly revealed through the course of the movie. But that kind of sets you up with the town that they're in, the small town Blythe Hollow. They kind of, I don't want to say worship witches, but they're definitely using that as a tourist destination, a tourist excuse. Come see our witches. They got a witch statue. They've got witch-themed stores and shops and restaurants and things like that. It reminded me a little bit of not Sedona, Jerome up north. Jerome with its insane asylum, its little sanitarium, how they have the ghost themed restaurants there and haunted house or haunted hotel. They have a whole area that used to be an insane asylum or mental hospital, state mental hospital, and now it's like a restaurant and bar, and it's that same kind of kitschy, come see our town, check it out, we've got this. That's what they're doing here, except for this actually does have real supernatural things happening.
Speaking of which, this is off subject, but at some point we need to do a stream team from Jerome.
Here we are in the haunted house or the haunted hotel.
Yeah.
No, dude, I'm still looking at you, and I still see the door in the background that I keep expecting to open. A little kid run inside and slam. It's freaking me out, man. But so to get back on that's basically the plot summary. To get back on to what we liked about it, again, it reminded me a lot of like Nightmare Before Christmas. There's several movies that
Corpse Bride.
Yeah, Corpse Bride. They've been stop motion that may have a little bit of darkness to them, but are still again, I would hesitate to also say kids movies because they're made with adults in mind.
Well, a great example of a movie that reminds me of this movie is Monster House. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
I have it on DVD. I've not watched it.
Yeah, that movie goes dark, but it doesn't... The thing that makes a movie like this, or made me feel okay with letting my daughter watch it, is the thing they do in ParaNorman that's really good is they diffuse the intense moments pretty well. So they do something pretty intense, and then they diffuse it with some humor almost immediately. Yeah. You know, there's a scene where Norman is, you know, he is involved, or what is the best way to put this so it doesn't sound creepy? He basically has to interact with a dead body. And that scene starts off pretty horrifying, and it goes to slapstick humor very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that doing things like this is how the movie manages to... I think that's how the movie managed to find its way into a PG instead of a PG-13.
Yeah, puts kids at ease fairly quickly with anything
dark. Right. It never stays too intense for too long.
Sure. Well, I mean, from my perspective, I would definitely... I will buy it. I don't know that I'll run out and get it right now because my daughter's only 2. And I don't feel the need to watch it again or watch it once a year, that kind of thing. But I definitely feel like this would be a movie that she would enjoy. And I want to own it for the stop motion aspect of it. I mean, I want to see it in beautiful, you know, Blu-ray definition, like up on my big projector to see some of this stuff. I can't get over how amazing the stop motion animation was. I just can't get over it.
Yeah. One of the really great technical things with this movie too is they used a new process that hasn't previously been used in stop motion. And so what's normally done with stop motion is you have all of your different models, and when they need to have the characters talk or they need them to change expressions, they basically change the heads, you know, and they have all these different heads for moving the mouth and pronouncing various words and things like that. And usually these different heads or different fingers that they need for all these different motions are modeled one at a time, which can be kind of expensive and time consuming, and it limits the number of emotions and, you know, various models of hands and feet and things like that they can do. So what they did for this movie is they used a 3D printer, and they actually printed out all the different heads, which lowered the cost significantly and allowed them to have a wider range of heads and, you know, fingers and toes and things like that they could use to
even
make the
facial
characters
expressions,
right,
a
to
grimace mouth, a smiley mouth, a frowny mouth.
Right, exactly, or even in between those. So this gave them this wide range of emotions and ability to move the characters around that is, you know, unprecedented. And I think that's part of why the movie's stop motion animation feels so high quality and it's so just beautiful.
That's awesome. I also didn't realize they shot it on a Canon EOS 5D Mark II DSLR, a digital SLR camera. They didn't use like a film camera. They shot it on a DSLR. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's crisp. I mean,
yeah.
It is really crisp. And it's funny, we were talking about Nightmare Before Christmas and Corpse Bride. Up until this point, I'd say Corpse Bride was probably the standard for how good it could get. And ParaNorman, I think, just blew that out of the water.
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
I mean, floating ghosts, and the ghosts have this kind of, ephemeral, ethereal kind of feel to them. Mm-hmm. The dead have pieces falling off them. The people that come back to get Norman. Even the witch, when you finally get to see the witch, I mean, some of the effects they had done with her, like I said, if it's not CGI, I have no idea how they did it if it's not CGI. If it's stop motion, I'm just flabbergasted. Like, some of the stuff is just, I think it's got to be impossible. They had to do CGI, but if they didn't, give them, I think it won tons of awards, and most likely rightly so. Nominated for an Oscar, it won 15 awards and 24 other nominations. I mean, it deserved every single one of those, for story, for character, for plot, for technical ingenuity. It's just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only is from a technical standpoint is it an amazing looking movie, and an amazing movie to watch, but the story is phenomenal. I mean, it's such a well-written, tight script, and again, some of the themes that they play with are educational and just really enthralling, and I don't know, it's just, I'd actually seen this movie in the theater. And
you did?
Yeah, I totally saw this in the theater.
Nice.
When you said we should watch that movie, I was totally like, well, I've seen it before, but I thought to myself, I want to see it again. And then I watched it again on Netflix. So I think I've seen this movie 3 times now, and it was one of my favorite movies of last year. So yeah, it's absolutely a great movie. I love it, love it, love it. I can't speak highly enough about it because I love me some animation.
I'm really glad you finished that sentence because at first you just said, I love me. I love me some.
I love me too.
Dude, I love you. Everybody does. Come on.
That's what the movie's about. It's about, Norman finding his way to love Norman.
It's about love, people. It's love. Anyway, I know we talked a little bit about the cast. Actually, have we talked about the cast? Yeah, you mentioned some of the people at the beginning. Yes, John Goodman is also in this movie. I don't think we talked about him. I don't know if we talked about Casey Affleck. I think we did.
No, we haven't, actually.
Yeah, Casey Affleck, John Goodman, Tempest Bledsoe from The Cosby Show was hilarious in this movie. But just a good cast all around, too. Good voice cast. Every character felt like it had I know what these actors look like, and yet they embodied the character that they had. It was good. It was well done.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. They just, the actors sort of, aside from Christopher Mintz-Plasse, whose voice is just so distinguishable.
It's grating.
He still fit the character. I think while the character didn't exactly look like him, I think there was enough of him in the character, in the character's design.
It reminded me of, what was it, Stu from the first Toy Story movie? The next door neighbor? Sid.
Yeah.
Sid. It reminded me of like a grown-up Sid, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Well, it had the other thing too. I mean, the design of all of the characters. There was a very deliberate, somewhat ugly, I guess. If you think about what the mom looked like with her weird flat head and
nobody in this movie is gorgeous.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of fun too. It was almost like a Flintstones kind of thing to the design of all the characters, which is kind of neat.
Well, it felt real. It felt more realistic, than everybody looking like models.
Right.
So, like I said, I'm a buy it. Someday I'm going to own this movie. At the very least, I'm going to stream it like I did now. How about you?
I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
I don't own it yet. It's been on my to-do list for a while, so I plan to pick that up on Blu-ray pretty soon here.
Nice.
I think it popping up on Netflix just kind of postponed me buying it. But
the need to go out and buy it.
Right, but I feel like I definitely want to see that in the highest definition possible and just really have it and be able to enjoy it anytime.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, man. See it up on the big screen,
Yeah, also the behind the scenes. With a movie like this, it's really fun to watch the behind the scenes and see how they put things together.
And this isn't a spoiler. Stick around for the last, 25 seconds of the end credits. They actually show you how they put together one of the dolls for Norman. And it's amazing. I mean, it's all just quickly, they put it together, they draw it out, they put on the pieces, they make the pieces. That was fascinating, just seeing that last 25 seconds of them making one character and everything that goes into it was just fascinating.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, ready to get into spoilers?
Break it down.
Here we go. If you have not seen ParaNorman, we suggest you turn this off right now, pause it, do whatever you need to do. Go watch ParaNorman. It's streaming for free on Netflix. Watch instantly.
People, listen to Jamel because we about to spoil some shit. All right.
We're going to spoil it for you.
We're going to spoil it for you.
Mr. Darcy is a nice bloke. They get together in the end. Rosebud is a sled, and Harvey the rabbit's not pretend. Bruce is a ghost in the sixth sense, the family in the others are too. That's your wife's head in a box, Brad, so wish John Doe adieu. What's in the box? What's in the box? Dumbledore dies, Trinity dies, Norman Bates is his mother, he's in a disguise. Snoop dies, Omar dies, and no one really understands Mulholland Drive. It's true, it's true, we're gonna spoil it for you. It's true, yeah, it's true, we're gonna spoil it for you.
All right, Joe. So, what do we? There's so much I want to talk about that we had to hide in
the non-spoiler.
Yeah, in the non-spoiler section. But I partially want to jump all the way to the end, but I'm going to contain myself because that part, I love that part of the movie. But there's so much before that too.
Let me talk about what I found to be the funniest part of the movie. Is that all right?
Sure.
It's a one-liner. It happens in a scene where Norman's dead uncle comes to him and tells him, he's told him while he was alive that Norman needed to help. That he alone could stop this witch from coming back and basically destroying the town. And Norman kind of blew him off. So now the uncle, now a specter, a spirit, a ghost, comes back and haunts Norman in a bathroom at school. And he's trying to get Norman to do what he needs him to do. And he says, he's basically up in Norman's face. And the uncle says, you must read from the book. You have to do this by sunset. Swear. And at that, Norman pauses for a few seconds, kind of looks around, looks sheepish, and says, you mean like the F word? And then the uncle says, I mean, promise me. And that one little moment freaking slayed me. I had to hit I was watching that part on my phone at lunch at work, and I seriously hit the skip back 10 seconds like 2 or 3 times because it killed me every time. His face, the timing. I mean, you want to talk about humor. That's hilarious. Swear! You mean like the F word? I mean, promise me. Just hilarious, man. That kind of like adult humor I thought was great. I thought it was just fantastic.
Yeah, you get a lot of it too from the boy who becomes Norman's friend, Neil.
Yeah,
played by Tucker Albrizzi,
little chunky boy.
Oh my gosh, Neil was so amazing. He's just like, he's the stereotypical fat kid in school who gets picked on and beat up.
But he's just nothing can touch him. He's just so happy and carefree and just fun.
Yeah, that kid loves life, and it's great.
Oh my god, dude, the scene where he shows up outside Norman's window and he's wearing a hockey mask.
Yeah.
And they play the Jason music, the Friday the 13th music, and he takes the mask off and he's like, you want to play some hockey?
Yeah.
There's just so many adult-oriented jokes. We were talking about from time to time, I guess a month ago now, and I was saying that we could have used more adult-type humor, like a Shrek, or something that I felt like it was a little too much for the kids. And ParaNorman gives both good stuff for kids and great stuff for adults, man. There's easily enough for adults to appreciate in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, talk about just from the very start of the movie. It starts off with that B horror movie at the very beginning.
Yeah, the 70s.
It's got the perfect 70s horror movie soundtrack.
Even the opening to it looks like a 70s movie.
Yeah, and you've got the actress with the huge boobs running around and screaming in the skimpy outfit. And there's a scene where she's screaming and the microphone comes into the camera and she slaps it out of the frame
and then the zombie guy takes too long to get to her and she kind of stops for a second and then starts screaming again. Like, that's hilarious. Yeah, from the get-go, it was just, I don't know if it was a comedy, but it had so many comedic moments in it. I want to call it a comedy. Maybe it's a dramedy,
Yeah. And then the grandma, what are they doing now?
It's just so fun. Yeah, just a fun movie.
Yeah.
All right, spoil it. Tell me, what's at the ending? Tell me.
Well,
skip to it.
There's so many little pieces. I guess before we even skip there, let's talk about just the revelation that, Norman is supposed to go read this book in front of the witch's grave and keep her from waking up and destroying the town.
Right.
This is the task his uncle Pendergast has given him. So he gets there, he gets the book, but he goes to the wrong place. And then the Walking Dead rise. The witch creates this massive storm and starts tearing apart the city slowly. And there's the whole scene where the townsfolk start to see the zombies, and Norman sees the zombies. He runs away from them. Everything that has to do with the zombies when they first emerge is just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, just gold, comic gold.
Yeah, everything. Like when they're chasing him back to Uncle Pendergast's house, and they're looking for him. And there's a scene where Norman slams the door on the zombie, and like the zombie's arms and teeth are like in the door or something like that, but then like his feet break through, which make no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, so going into spoilers, one of the things that I thought worked best was the way they took the typical kind of horror movie genre, the zombie movie plot of these evil creatures rising from the grave to murder and kill and that kind of a thing, and they turned it on its ear, where the townsfolk, who are typically getting ravaged and killed or whatnot, suddenly rise up against the zombies. And at first you're kind of thinking like, hell yeah, like kill those zombies. And then they start to reveal the motivation behind the zombies and what they're really trying to do. And they're not trying to hurt anybody. They're just trying to warn Norman and ask Norman's help. And then you start to realize the townfolk are the evil people for trying to kill these creatures that are just trying to get it to stop.
Yeah, the sort of juxtaposition of going from exactly. Like you realize that the townfolk are literally becoming the zombies. You know, the zombies did this exact same thing years and years ago, and they put this poor girl to her death for being the same as Norman, pretty much being a person who could speak to ghosts. Yeah. And even the way that piece was revealed, and all the little bits about how that story goes, and revealing exactly what happened, and like the part where Norman falls, and then he has that dream, and he gets to see what happened to the witch, and it's horrifying and amazing, and
the witch turns out to be his, I don't even know, great
grandmother,
or aunt or something to that effect, but they're related essentially, which is she could see ghosts and things like that, and he can see ghosts just like his uncle. So it's
I guess she would be like a cousin, not a grandmother or something like that.
Yeah, maybe an aunt or something like that, probably a cousin. Right. But it's hereditary. Like he can see them because she could see them, and so on and so forth. And she was killed because she was like Norman. For no other reason than she could talk to ghosts, and people were scared of her back in the day. These days, people just bully them and they kick them aside and ignore them. Back then, they tried her for being a witch and they hanged her. And she was a kid. She's essentially in the movie the same age as Norman, which is probably 10 to 12, somewhere around there.
Right.
I don't know if they say how old he is. Yeah, and when Norman finds out, like that was some good acting on part of the kid, but also some emoting for the 3D printer when he finds out that when he accuses the zombies, the head zombie, the judge who sentenced this girl to die, like she was just a kid and you killed her. Like that was some serious drama right there.
Yeah, the look on his face too is priceless. I mean, on his side too, the emoting, even from a zombie, like you feel his overwhelming guilt over what he did. Yeah. And so I thought that was just awesome.
I mean, it dealt with some adult themes in that sense, but it's nothing a kid couldn't understand or process or get. It was nothing that would, in that sense, the story was nothing that would keep a kid up at night. I think what we were talking about in the non-spoiler section, that there are a couple of hairy moments, so to speak. That's really the kind of stuff, but the story is totally a young adult kind of kids and adults will enjoy it. I didn't see any kind of issues there.
Right. And let's see, we haven't spent any time talking about Anna Kendrick's character, Norman's sister. Yeah, Courtney.
Well, let's talk a couple seconds about Norman's family.
Yeah. So Norman's mother is played by Leslie Mann, Sandra Babcock, and his dad, Perry Babcock, is played by Jeff Garlin, which amazing casting in both of those. His grandma is played by Elaine Stritch, and everybody in his family is just, the characterizations are so just amazingly well done. Like you feel like you're dropped into a real family with its own history, its own backstory. We talk about world building on the show from time to time. To be looking at something animated, to be looking at an animated family and have it feel as real as any family you've ever met.
Yeah.
Despite, the Looney Tunes kind of slapstick humor that pops up from time to time. There's a scene where Perry, Norman's dad, falls off of a ladder, trying to put in a light bulb. And I think the mom drops a glass. Like, all this stuff happens at the same time. It's very cartoony, but it's still really fun and feels really realistic.
Well, and what's great about it is it allowed them, that kind of slapstick type humor really works well in the stop motion arena, where there's lots of action and movement and things happening, things breaking, people falling and tumbling over and things like that. It might seem out of place in a traditionally shot movie. Like, what are they doing that for? But it just further goes to show how well they've mastered their craft in a stop motion movie, Right.
And it's helping to, in that case, it's helping to diffuse the fact that they're about to have a conversation with Norman about his grandmother being dead.
Right.
Which is pretty heavy this early in a movie, but surrounding it with humor before now. Yeah, surrounding it with humor on both sides, I think is, again, we talked about diffusing the intense situations. That was a good way to do it, and it's kind of fun the way that all happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Norman doesn't get along with his teenage sister, who is in love with the high school jock, who happens to be the brother of his friend Neil, and the brother,
the little chubby kid.
Yeah, the little chubby,
the little chubby redhead kid whose brother is like this big workout, fully built kind of football player or whatnot.
Just huge guy, who's played by Casey Affleck. And has, like, I think at some point she says, the sister's talking about him on the phone, and she says, like, 6-pack, it's more like a 12-pack. Something like that.
She may have even said, like, 7-pack or something like that. Like, something stupid, like, woman, that's retarded. Yeah. The only negative thing I will say about this movie, and it's not even a huge point. It's just something that kind of took me out of the movie for a couple of minutes, and I even went back and watched it 2 more times to see if it was just me or if it kind of stood out. There's a scene where Norman goes to confront the witch on top of a building. He's like hanging off of a ladder or a pole of some kind, and the witch is kind of the clouds in the sky churning with evil and activity, and he's kind of yelling at her. And I felt like in that scene, the kid's performance, Norman's performance, was flat. He maintained the exact same voice, the exact same pitch, like everything. He's screaming into the sky, and he's yelling some pretty, crazy things, and yet his voice isn't inflecting at all. It's not changing at all. It's kind of calm. And I felt like that was probably a good moment to really show some panic in him or some fear in him, and instead he didn't have any of that. The rest of the movie he did fantastic, and even after that moment, he picked right back up, and it was a good mix of humor and straight acting, and he confronts the witch a little while later, and it's a perfect scene. I wouldn't change it. His rationale, his everything at that moment seems perfect for those scenes going forward. But that was the one scene where I felt like, if you're an actor sitting in a booth reading dialogue, it might be hard to really capture some of the emotion in some of the scenes.
Right.
And I felt like even more so as a child actor, he may have had some trouble. But
it's possible, too, that he wasn't reading for the scene as it actually played out, too.
Sure, yeah.
Like maybe the clock tower was something that was added after the voices were already recorded.
Became something different than the script or whatnot. Yeah, but I mean that is a 45-second nitpick in the middle of 90-something minutes of great movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's something I didn't notice, but I think having seen the movie as many times as I have, I think I can picture that going down exactly that way. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it is a very small amount of time, so and I think he's so spot on every other time that I think it's easy to.
The rest of the cast too. I mean, I didn't find flaws with anybody else's performance in the entire movie. Right. And how often do I say that? Everybody seemed to be consistent and maintain their their characters all throughout. I thought it was fantastically done.
Right, and the hook of the movie follows that almost immediately.
Yeah.
So, the movie gets so intense, I think it's easy to, even if it bothered me, I probably didn't get a chance to really sit and think on it too much, because
it was totally
you get that punch in the gut, that Keanu Reeves punch in the gut right after that.
Well, like I said, I had to go back and watch it 2 more times just to even see if I was wrong, if I was right. It didn't sit right with me, and that was the only scene in the entire movie. And again, it was like 45 seconds to a minute. And it was just his performance. But you might be entirely correct. Like, they may have envisioned it completely different when he was reading it, and that's what they ended up with was totally different. But
right.
So it would never prevent me from recommending the movie or enjoying it at all. It was still awesome.
Yeah. So I guess this brings us to the finale of the movie, which I think is just absolutely phenomenal. The pièce de résistance.
Hang on, I just want to make sure. Is this the full 180? Like, everybody was alienating him at first, and now at the end of the movie, it's a 180 of that?
I was actually thinking more about the confrontation with the witch.
Okay. So hold on one second.
Okay.
So right before that, when he realizes that these zombies, these people who killed the witch in the past, aren't trying to harm anyone, they just want him to complete his reading of the book, so the witch will go back down and they'll be able to sleep and not cause any more damage or harm, or the witch won't be able to harm anyone. Everything that was set up in the rest of the movie, the previous 75% of the movie, with people hating him and thinking he's weird, like, everyone comes to his rescue. So his sister, who was previously a total jerk to him, is the first to stand up for him and tell everybody else to back off and to listen to her brother. The jock kid, the dumb jock kid, says some pretty fun, dumb jock stuff. The chunky kid defends him. Even the kind of skateboarder,
Alvin.
Yeah, the skateboarder kind of bully kid, the one with the things in his ears. What do they call those? Not rings.
Big fat ass earrings.
Yeah, the gauges. They call them gauges. The one with the gauges in his ears. Clearly the, quote unquote, finger quotes, bad kid. Even he comes around to saying, Norman knows what he's talking about. You guys need to lay off of him. So
there's another funny adult scene there too, where a bit of humor there too, where they all join hands and Alvin grabs Norman's sister Courtney's butt.
Yeah,
she goes, Alvin!
They're all like grabbing hands.
Hands
coming together, and all of a sudden you hear her go, "Oh, Alvin, my hand!" And he's like, "Sorry." Yeah. But I loved that moment where even his parents who were condemning him and telling him to start acting normal and stop this craziness, are behind him at this point. And the movie proceeds with the last quarter of it with Norman having everything he needs and everyone he needs to kind of settle the issue with the witch. But I just liked that going into the third act of the movie, that you get to see the full 180 from everybody thinking he's crazy to everybody realizing he's right and they've been wrong.
Right, and it also, from a story standpoint, you have your hero now has his weapons that he needs to go fight the beast, to go slay the beast.
Right.
He
and
has
that's
a sword
the
and
support
shield.
of all of his family and friends and confidence.
Right. Confidence, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Continue on to the best scene.
I'm going to talk about the witch.
I want to talk about the witch. Joe, shut up.
Yeah, so all of this leads into the finale of the movie, an amazing, amazing scene where Norman goes to confront the witch, finally, and try to get her to stop destroying the town, basically. In the past, one of the spoilers that's revealed is that the book he's been reading from was just a fairy tale. And for generations, people like him, people in his family, have been tasked with going to the graveyard and reading from this fairy tale, which basically makes the witch go back to sleep. I guess after several years of slumber, she starts to wake up. They go read to her ghost. She falls back asleep, and thus preventing her from waking up and destroying the town.
And they've been doing this for at least 100 years or more.
Right. And Norman decides that it's this vicious cycle that needs to stop. And in order to stop it, he needs to go and talk to her and figure out why it is she's so angry and what he can do to get her to stop. And so he goes to confront her, and when he gets to the place where she was buried, which is this beautiful tree out in the middle of the forest, she confronts him in the form of a little girl with kind of this lightning bolt hair and this kind of yellow aura around her. And what I love about this scene is initially she starts doing things that would try to kill him, like sending branches and spikes and stuff at him, and he keeps, moving towards her and trying to get close enough to talk to her. And the thing that I really, really love is the way she interacts with him when he first gets there. It's a perfect match to what happens when you're a child and you're being bullied. They do things like they surround you, and she splits into multiples of herself, and they surround him and start kind of floating around him. And they're doing the things bullies do, like they push you and they poke you, and she's pushing him down, and he's getting back up, and she's shooting little lightning bolts at him. And, it's exactly what bullies do. And I thought that was something that was incredibly cleverly written and even better animated, because you really do get that feeling that she's just dishing out what happened to her as a child. Yeah, she's giving back everything that was done to her. And she's incredibly angry about how she was mistreated. And this is where the story could have fallen apart, but it's where everything really comes together well. And not only with the script, but also with the way it's animated and the few effects that they use to create her kind of ghostly powers and the things she does to him.
And things like that.
Yeah. Her to really show her anger and her frustration with the situation she's been put in. But basically he pleads with her, and he talks to her and tries to get her to remember a time when she wasn't so angry and understand what it is that happened to her and why she's in the situation she's in. So maybe he can, talk her back down, basically talk her away from the ledge, as it were.
Yeah, that whole sequence in the movie, actually got on the other screen, I've got a behind the scenes for how they did some of this stuff, and it's just blowing my friggin' mind, man. What I thought was CG or CGI or whatnot is still a lot of practical effects and camera tricks and really freaking amazing 3D printed models that the medium of stop motion allowed them to make what would only be done in a computer or whatnot, allowed them to make split-second changes to a facial, so you get like a really quick glimpse of like a girl with two faces, and then it goes back to the one face, or it jumps around a little bit and things like that. What I thought was CGI is done practically, it looks like in real camera effects, that kind of thing. I got like you with the Blu-ray. I need to see the behind the scenes stuff. It looks amazing.
Yeah, and what that allowed them to do is to really, really convey anger and rage. I mean,
pure rage.
Yeah, you feel this pure just hatred and rage coming from the character.
It's not evil, it's just anger. To make that distinction, some people think that all bullies are evil, and I think some bullies can be pressed too far or pushed too far and they lash out, or it's all they've ever known, or they've been mistreated, and that's what they're doing. They're doing what they know, or they're lashing out in anger. And I thought that was a good lesson as well, that maybe you can talk someone down from that anger ledge, and turn it around like Norman does in this movie.
Yeah, and the way that's handled is absolutely beautiful as well.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, the scene where she finally calms down enough to take on an appearance, take on her original appearance as just a little girl. And he's talking to her, and she's finally starting to remember, because after all these years, she's kind of forgotten who she is. And she doesn't even really remember what she's angry about anymore. It's like she's been angry for so long that her perspective has been completely distorted. and he's helping to remind her of exactly what happened and why the people who did what they did to her were wrong.
Right.
And
that they're at fault, that she's allowing them to continue to hurt her by feeling this anger and continuing with this anger year after year.
Yeah, there's a really great scene, too, where he's talking to her, and she's telling him about what they did, and for a split second, she starts to turn back into Angry Lightning Girl again, just for a second. And it's, like, really awesome, like, the way she's talking about it, and you see her eyes kind of spark a little bit, and you see her hair kind of start to stand up a little bit, but then she kind of comes down again.
Yeah, that fire comes back into her.
Yeah.
Yeah, the special effects in that scene were amazing. Like, she seems like she's lit from within, and watching the behind-the-scenes thing, it looks like that's what they did. They made, like, a semi-transparent figure, and then they cast light inside of the figure, so it's actually glowing from itself. It's not CGI. That's friggin' genius to do it, and amazing to see it.
Yeah. It's one of the things, too, that in that scene specifically that really stood out to me. And this is why I kind of brought up the fact when I was talking about having the 3D printer and being able to show so many emotions. The other thing they spent a lot of time with was hands. And if it weren't for the fact that all of the characters only have 4 fingers or 3 fingers and a thumb, you could mistake the hands, the way they move in this movie, for real hands. Because the gestures and the movement of the fingers and things, especially in this scene when she's talking and she's remembering who she is and she's looking at her hands, it's every movement is so delicate and so nuanced that it feels, again, we were talking about how at times this movie looks like it's like a 3D animated movie, you know? It's just amazing. One of the things I didn't mention, when I did see it in the theater, I saw it in 3D. And for as far as 3D films go, it was definitely one of the best I've ever seen.
Nice.
I think that they used the same way all of these effects look really, really great in a standard 2D viewing. They look that much better in 3D. And I think that all of the tricks and ideas that they used to make this movie look so incredible, I think they probably put as much thought as they did into that, into how it was going to appear in 3D and the 3D presentation of the movie.
Yeah, I'm again, just amazed by it. I feel like we've got kind of a theme here with horror movies and or scary movies or that ghost and supernatural kind of genre, but we just keep finding these movies. Damn you, Netflix, for providing these movies to us. But this one really rises to the top. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. One of the things I liked about that final scene with the witch is that in almost every movie I watch, at least, I can't help but sometimes put myself in the main character's position. And that's part egotistical. That's also part they want us to do that. But in that scene, as uncomfortable as parts of that scene go, where he's talking to the witch and trying to calm her down and then trying to just really talk to her, he does not bullshit her at all. Like, she talks about wanting to see her mother, and he talks about, like, she's gone. Like, you can't see her if you stay here. Like, if you want to see her again, maybe you can go to rest and you can be with her again. And when I put myself in that situation, I think I would try to be way more politically correct and way more positive about everything. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things I appreciated about the kids' performance, but the script writing too, was that I don't think a lot of kids are grown up enough to try to be politically correct, to be as indoctrinated into the corporate atmosphere as the rest of us, where we have to sugarcoat things and try to explain it. Like, as a kid, he just tells her, this is how it is. Like, he's nice about it, but he doesn't sugarcoat it. He isn't bullshit. He doesn't try to say, like, it's all wine and roses. That's why they killed you. It was an accident. Like, he tells them, like, they were wrong. They were messed up. It was wrong. You know, I understand you. I'm an outcast too. I'm an outsider. And I don't know that as a 35-year-old male, I would have thought of any of that. But if you would talk to 12-year-old Joe, maybe I would have. You know what I mean? And I liked that aspect. As a screenwriter too, it's really hard to keep that in mind all the time and write kids like kids. You want to tend to write kids like adults would think kids would act or say or, you know, speak or things like that. And I thought this movie did a really good job of nailing what a kid would say and what a kid would do.
Yeah, I agree. I think all the way through, that's something that they managed to carry through is in the writing, is that every single child in this movie, every single kid in this movie felt like a kid, and they felt like they were making the choices that someone their age would make, all the way from, Norman to his older sister Courtney, to Mitch, Neil's older brother. The way they behaved and the way they talked, all of it was always true to what this character is.
It was consistent.
Yeah, it was consistent, and each one of them had their very own voice. It never felt like, this one writer writing lines for all these different characters.
Yeah.
It felt like each one was alive and had their own pulse, their own thoughts, their own ideas.
I agree with that.
Which
100%.
was fantastic. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what else we can say.
Just for Christ's sake, just watch this movie. That's all we're saying.
Yeah, that's ParaNorman. It's a freaking awesome movie.
I agree.
Awesome movie. It ends with a really great happy ending with Norman and his family sitting around, and his dad, who was the most resistant to Norman's ability to speak to the dead, and the one who insisted more than anybody that he just be normal. Him actually asking where the grandma is, and so he could sit next to her, and he could.
Is she sitting here? Really?
Yeah,
hey, Mom. Yeah, it's very well done. It's a good, heartfelt, again, family kind of movie ending.
Yeah, and then grandma and dad at the same time say, "So what's going on now?"
At the exact same
on the TV.
Time. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah,
yes,
great movie.
Buy it. Buy it. At least stream it, people.
Yeah.
And thus endeth the spoilers.
Yeah. Thus endeth our review of ParaNorman.
So, coming up on the next show, we're going to try to do a very special Stream Team podcast.
Right. This one is very extra special.
Extra special Stream Team podcast. One of our close, good buddies, a guy by the name of Patrick Barrett, is in town from good old Scotland, across the pond.
Don't get too excited, people. He's not from Scotland. He's from here.
He's an American. He's a white boy.
Yeah,
but
he just happens to live in Scotland.
Currently, he's living in Scotland, and he's coming to visit us for a couple of weeks. And Jamel and I have invited him to join us for the next very special Stream Team podcast. If you don't know already, Jamel, Patrick, and I worked on a movie production company called Man on the Run. You can check it out on manontheRun.com. But we made a ton of movies together. We had fun for years on end, and it'll be good to get him in here and hear his perspective as well on movies and TV and that kind of a thing. So he's our very first guest star, which is going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, I think we're still up in the air about which movie we're going to watch. We've
narrowed it down.
We've narrowed it down, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put whatever movie we decide on in the show notes for this show. So, and of course, as always, the title of the show will let you know what movie we watch. So, whether it downloads to your iTunes automatically or your RSS feed, or if you happen to go to our website at streamteam.tumblr.com and download the MP3, you'll know what movie we picked and be able to take some time and go watch it. It's likely to be a movie on Netflix, but it's possible it may also be Amazon Prime. So
you can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/StreamTeamPodcast.
Our brand new fan page. Thanks to Joe for building that bad boy.
Thank you for letting me and for getting us all of our likes. Seriously, if you haven't liked us yet on Facebook, what's wrong with you? Come on, people. Let's make this happen.
Like us on Facebook. Review us on iTunes.
And get the RSS feed on Tumblr.
Yeah. Tell a friend.
Tell a friend.
Please.
Tell a friend. Tell your mom. Don't tell your mom. We curse a lot and talk about boobs. But tell somebody. Maybe your dad, if your dad's cool.
Yeah. You can tell your mom to review us even if she doesn't listen. That's fine. I don't care.
Whatever. We don't need your mom. That's what we're trying to say. So
I need your mama.
Oh, for the love of...
Oh, wait. No. That's
okay. All right, people. Until next time,
That's the Stream Team Podcast. Thanks for listening.
Stream it.
Stream it.
Bye.
The Stream Team Podcast is filmed in front of a live studio audience and features music by Broke for Free and the Not Quite Quartet. For show notes and more info, visit streamteam.tumblr.com.